Hi everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with a new video, obviously. And today I'm going to talk about my most anticipated releases from the month of July until December of this year. So I've tried to narrow it down so I don't have like the most massive list ever. So I've only chosen books that are either like the first in a series or a standalone, or I'm up to part with the series. So I'm not gonna put a book number 4 in a series on this list if I haven't read the previous 3 ones. So you know why like Vengeful isn't on it, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I have 11 books to talk about today, and most of them I don't really know that much about. It's just that I don't need to know much for me to be interested in them. So I've decided to try to sort these books so that I talk about them from the earliest release until the latest release. So yeah, let's get started. The first book I want to talk about is These Rebel Waves by Sarah Roche. This book comes out on August 7th. She is the author that wrote Snow Like Ashes trilogy, which I've only read the first book, but this book is supposed to be about pirates. I mean, I'm sold already there, and there's also supposed to be royals in it, and I mean, I don't need to know anything more. I don't want to know anything more than that, because we need more pirates books in this universe. There's way too few. So I mean, I'm pumped. I really want to read this book, and I will. And the next book I'm going to talk about is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, and this book comes out August 28th, and this is supposed to be her first middle grade book. And in this one we meet Cassidy, and she can see and talk to the dead, and her best friend Jacob happens to be a ghost. So you mean, that sounds cool, just that. But Cassidy meets this girl named Laura, and she explains to Cassidy that they are in-betweeners, meaning that they can see and talk to the dead. And this book pretty much is about that Cassidy needs to try to get the dead to move on, because shit will happen and problems will arise if they do not. So I mean, Victoria Schwab's writing is amazing, and I've loved everything I've read by her so far, and I really love middle grade as well, and this sounds like a really cool concept, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Like I said, this book comes out in August 28th. And the next book I want to talk about is The Storm Runner by Jennifer Cervantes, and this is the next new book in Rick Riordan Presents, which is an imprint of Disney Hyperion. And I mean, I love Rick Riordan, so I mean, this is just perfect. And as I said before, this is an imprint from Rick Riordan, meaning that this is a mythology book, like all of the books will be in this imprint. And this one is supposed to be about Mayan mythology, which I know absolutely squat about, so this will be really interesting. But in this one we meet Zane, and he's always found it really interesting to explore this resting volcano, which is near where he lives. But one day there's a new girl called Brooks comes to his school, and she tells him that it is in his destiny to wake up this evil god that's imprisoned, and they have to work together to stop that from happening. And that's pretty much all I know, but I mean, mythology, hello, I'm sold already. And this book is supposed to come out on September 18th. And the next book I want to talk about is Wildcard by Marie Lu. This is also coming out on September 18th, and this is book 2 in Warcross series, duology. I don't know idea how many books there's going to be. But I freaking loved Warcross. It was amazing, and I just kind of want to reread it immediately. And this is supposed to be book 2, and in the first book we meet Amika Chen, and she is trying to track down people who are illegally betting on this game called Warcross. And she's trying to make quick cash because she is on the verge of becoming homeless. She's kind of desperate, so she decides to try to catch this sort of thing in the game when there's like this really big game and everybody's watching, and it's a really big thing. She accidentally glitches herself into this game, and everybody sees her, and suddenly everybody knows who she is. And of course Amika thinks that she's going to get into trouble, but it turns out that the creator of this game actually finds her really awesome and wants to hire her for this job, trying to figure out who's trying to, ruin the big games. So, I mean, I love the first book. It was so cool. I've never read anything quite like it. And I'm really, really pumped about this book. And I might have to reread the first book, even though I read it this year. But, you know, who cares? I might reread it. But like I said, this book will also be out on September 18th. And then we have a book that has the longest title ever. So I'm just going to read it from my computer. But it is The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. And this book will be out on October 2nd. And this is book 2 in the series called, I think it's a series. It's supposed to be a trilogy, duology. I have no idea. I'm suck at this. But it's the second book, at least, in the books about Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue that you may have heard about because it was a big thing last year. And in the first one, we meet Percy, and he's actually bisexual. And in the times they live in, it's not, you know, socially acceptable at all at this point. And his best friend happens to be, you know, a man of color. And in this time, they actually, the wealthy men actually used to travel around Europe, you know, before they're supposed to take over their father's estates, which is what Percy's supposed to do, because his father feel like he's not taking, you know, the big important thing of life seriously. So he's going on this trip to Europe together with his best friend and also together with his sister, and they come upon some trouble. Shit goes down. It's a really amazing book and I really loved it. And this is book 2 and this one is supposed to be more piratey, so I love that. And also you're supposed to follow the sister, Felicity I think, I'm not sure. And she was kick-ass and very, you know, sarcastic and awesome. So I have really high hopes for this one, and like I said, it will be out on October 2nd. And then we have a book that I'm really, really looking forward to, and that is Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling, and this is the illustrated edition, and this is supposed to come out on October 2nd as well, and it is illustrated by Chris Riddell. And so far, one of the pictures I've seen online, it looks really, really great. And I mean, I think everybody knows what Tales of Beedle the Bard is. There's a lot of different stories that are mentioned in the Harry Potter books, and one of them being, you know, the brother Prevel and the Deathly Hallows. So we're going to have an illustrated edition of that. And since we're not getting Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire in the illustrated edition this year, you know, we needed to have something else to look forward to. So awesome. And the next book we have is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is book 2 in Strange the Dreamer. I think it's supposed to be a duology. And this book comes out October. And this book is supposed to come out on October 2nd as well. It's a big day for releases that day. But this is book 2, like I said. And in the first one we meet Laszlo Strange. And he is obsessed with this city called Weep. But Weep is not the original name of this city, because that place was wiped from everybody's memory. And nobody can remember what the real name was. So since he's dedicated pretty much his entire life to trying to figure out what happened to Weep and what the hell Weep is really, then the opportunity comes for Laszlo Strange to join this party, to go to the city of Weep and, you know, figure out what the hell happened. And this book was so like magical and weird, and yes, it's ridiculously hard to describe what the hell it's about because that's Laini Taylor, but it was so beautiful and I loved it, and I'm really looking forward to this, and hopefully it will be just as good. And like I said, this book is supposed to come out on October 2nd. And the next book I want to talk about is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. And I've read everything that Becky Albertalli has written so far. I freaking love her books. And Adam Silvera, I've only read one book so far, but I did really like it. But this is a book they have actually co-written, and this book will be out on October 9th. We meet Arthur and Ben, and we have Arthur who loves Broadway plays, and we have Ben who's actually on his way to the post office to send off his ex-boyfriend's stuff. And these two guys actually meet, and obviously they fall for each other, but as always with Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera's books, there's some stuff going on in the, you know, meanwhile. So I'm really looking forward to this book. I mean, we need more contemporary in our lives by great authors, and I mean, how could this possibly go wrong? So I'm really hyped about this one, and this comes out October 9th, like I said. And the next book I want to talk about is A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahereh. This is a book that is supposed to come out October 16th, and this book takes place 1 year after 9/11, which probably everybody knows or should know about. So I have heard that this book is supposed to be somewhat inspired by Tahereh herself, because it's about, you know, being a Muslim after this attack and how hard it is, and they're tired of being stereotyped and everything like that. And also because the main character Shireen actually breakdance, which Tahereh used to do and still can, if I'm, you know, remembering Instagram photos correctly. And she actually meets this guy who seems to come from a completely different world from Shireen, but he's actually the first person. He doesn't stereotype her for being a Muslim, and the fact that they are, you know, probably very different from each other, but they cannot help but, you know, start to like each other. And I mean, it sounds really cool, and I like the fact that it's based off of her own life partially, which means that I cannot stop thinking that the male character in this book is supposed to be based off of Ransom Riggs, and hopefully that's true, because they are like the author-ish couple, and I would like it to be true. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this book, and like I said, it comes out October 16th. And then we have, for sure, one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and that is Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer, which is supposed to come out on November 6th. And this was originally supposed to be a duology, but they have, a few weeks ago I believe, pronounced that there's supposed to be 3 books now. So I hate it when they do that, but at the same time I love the first book so much, so I don't really mind that much. So in the first book we meet Nova, and she actually witnessed her family getting killed when she was a kid. And then we have this guy named Adrian, who's part of the Renegades. And Renegades, they kind of rule the city. They make up all of the laws and, you know, make sure that everybody follows it. And then the anarchists are kind of trying to, they want the Renegades away from power, pretty much. And Nova infiltrates the Renegades, and she meets Adrian, and shit happens, and they have superpowers, and it's hilarious and kick-ass and awesome, and I cannot wait for this book. And I read the first book in January, but I don't care, because I will be rereading it because of this book. I need to be prepared, and I'm not sure I'm emotionally prepared for this, but we're going to do it anyways. So, like I said, this book comes out on November 6th. Then we have one book left, which is technically not a book, it's more of a screenplay, but it's in, you know, book format. And that is Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald by J.K. Rowling. So this is supposed to be the original screenplay for the second movie. This is supposed to come out on November 16th. And this time around we're supposed to kind of, you know, follow Grindelwald a little bit more, and we're trying to follow Dumbledore and Newt Scamander trying to, you know, take down Grindelwald. And that's all I need to know, because it sounds awesome, and as long as we get as much, you know, Newt Scamander as possible, I'm happy, because that's an amazing, funny character. So those are all of the 11 books that I most look forward to. I mean, I have other books I'm interested in as well, but we could be here forever if I'm going to mention them all. So yeah, if you're interested in reading any of these books, please let me know down below which ones it is and where I look forward to them. Or if you feel like I have missed some, you know, anticipated releases of yours, please let me know down in the comments which ones they are, and I will definitely check them out. But yeah, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the little button down below. And yeah, I hope we see each other next time. Bye!